So happened that after several years, a doctor happened to visit Nasik, and he examined my eyes and warned my parents that the care should be taken, otherwise my sight would be affected. There is another very interesting incident of a very personal nature. Once I was playing hockey in the compound of a house, and Baba happened to come over there, and then he sent for me. As soon as I came in his presence, there was another doctor, and he told the doctor, "Why don't you examine him? That is, whether anything wrong with his stomach." And doctor thoroughly did the examination and said, "Baba, he does not suffer from anything, nor I suspect that he has appendicitis." But then, after lapse of many years, when I was posted during the Second World War at Devlali to operate a bus service, there, one night I suddenly got the attack of appendicitis, and a doctor had to be rushed. And later on, I went to Ahmednagar, and from Ahmednagar, I was admitted to a hospital in Pune, where I was operated for appendicitis. And the appendix was removed from my body, which had become, what would I say, a rotten, and had almost endangered my life. So these intimate incidents and experiences, they lead to a peculiar feeling within you, and no other man could tell you, and this gives one's a conviction that you are very close and nearer to a person who understands you and your nature so well. This kind of an inner contact with a person helps you, and it tells upon your consciousness. Some people say it is like sowing of the seeds. Seeds don't grow so soon. They sprout into trees after a decade or so, or after a very long time. My contact with Baba and his keen interest into me in his own way, which at that time I could not appreciate, nor could I tell the mystical importance of it, I felt in the later life. And it helped me a lot, to an extent that I almost developed an inner sight. That is, I did not see things directly, but when I looked at a thing, I could understand the sum total of it, the total meaning of a problem. And this has helped me very much in life, and succeeded in developing that kind of a feeling in me which you called peace of mind. Despite the turmoil and day-to-day changes, they are just like waves on the ocean, but underneath the sea is calm. Similarly, I may be involved in day-to-day things. I may regard the surroundings of the world around me of illusory nature, but within my heart, I definitely feel, I am convinced that Baba was the supreme being of our time. He was the avatar of the age. No man in my life has fascinated me so much. On different occasions in my life, I came into contact with intellectuals, philosophers, men of commerce, and belonging to different faculties, including saints who had good following. But after coming into contact with Avatar Meher Baba, they did not quite fascinate me, nor they could bring about that conviction into me, that inner transformation into me, which later on I acquired from my master. Avatar Meher Baba told me many things. Once, while he was at Ahmednagar, and I was all alone with him, he told me that this life is an illusion. This Maya, this does not exist. I could not realize at that time the importance of what he said, but later on I realized that at that time he had sowed seeds into consciousness, and it grew like a mighty tree later on. In my day-to-day experiences with people and with many other things, I could very well realize what Baba had told me. And even today I am convinced that God is real and all else is illusory. It also happened that Baba gave me a few advice. He first told me whether I had any sex contact. I told Baba that I did not have any such experience. Then he said, do you get such thoughts into your mind? And I replied to him, yes, Baba, they come into my mind, and it is very difficult to check them. So Baba advised that whenever such thoughts come into your mind, you preoccupy yourself with some other work, and soon they will leave you. Later on, after contacting people belonging to or people interested in spirituality, they quite confirm the thing. They say they are just like waves on the ocean. You are not to bother about it. Underneath the waves, the ocean is quiet. So long you have a mind, the such traits, it is the inherent quality of the mind to create thoughts. And why should you worry about it? So that was a sort of an initiation. With that, Baba told me a few things about my marriage. And even after the marriage, it happened that whenever I contacted him, he dwelt on the subject and always gave me that fatherly advice. Until today, I am happy due to his blessings that I have realized marriage as a really spiritual. What Baba advised me or instructed me, it dawned upon my consciousness that sex is not a thing to be fiddled with. Sex is very much in man. It is a part and parcel of Adam. But he has to develop the higher self, and animal nature must be sublimated. After the marriage, I enjoyed great peace, and I did not know what was the purpose behind it, because it was Baba at whose instructions I got married. It happened one day, I was doing my work at the desk in an office. My father soon called me. There was a curtain, and I was taken behind it, and my father straight away told me, well, I want you to get married. I said, with whose order you want me to get married? He says, here is a telegram from Baba, he wants you. I say, go and inform the master, I am willing. Although at that time I did not see the bride, and it was the marriage, in those olden days when you seldom used to see the bride who would be your future companion. And it happened so that afterwards it has turned out to be a source of great inspiration. And although 31 years have passed, I begin to feel that it was a more or less like a spiritual discipline that was entrusted, or rather, I was made to go through, and it has definitely helped me in my day-to-day life, which I called a continuous spiritual journey. Almost every day I have a feeling that although I do my daily duties, and apart from that, I take part in social activities, but the feeling remains dominant in my mind that this is a passing shadow, that this is a transitory world, and I must always drown myself in Baba thoughts and develop that consciousness and keep on doing so until I am able to see him in his true form. Though it will be a fantastic and rather exaggerated thing to say here about that particular experience, but I do feel, as Baba says, that realization is the birthright of every soul. Every soul that has come into being has got that element in itself, and someday the spirituality is going to be the ultimate and the crowning experience, the rich heritage of the mankind. In my day-to-day life, I had many more adventures with Baba, but an average mystic or a wayfarer, I don't know whether he would attach importance to it. One day I went to a bungalow and I found there a friend of mine, and we were both playing cricket. Soon Baba came and said, I would also like to join. To visit Meher Retreat, a bungalow on the outskirts of Nasik city. And there I met my friend, and together we were playing the game of cricket. Soon Baba came out and he saw us playing, and he too joined us. and we gave him the bat. He was batting, and myself and my friend, we tried our level best to clean bowl Baba, but we did not succeed. And Baba was hitting all around the wicket. At that moment, the little daughter of Rustum Saroshirani, Baba's one of the oldest disciples at Nasik, she happened to come out of the house. She was hardly about 10 or 12 years of age, and she was standing very close to the wickets. So Baba advised her to go away immediately from there. But as you know how naughty children are, she did not realize the importance Baba said to her, and soon, while Baba was hitting, a boy straight came towards her and hit her nose, and she was bleeding, and she was then rushed to the nearby bungalow. Her dressing was done, and as usual, you know, we were so very frightened that we both disappeared from the scene. In another instance, when I was at Lonavla, there happened to be a distant relative of mine. He was Ahmad Jacob, and that boy was crazy about driving cars. And earlier, also, he met with certain accident at the railway station. So the news came that Baba's caravan, in which he used to generally travel all over India, had 2 punctured wheels, and it was a very difficult job to repair it. So Baba suddenly said, who would do the repair job? And this boy says, Baba, I would do it for you. And he went out, and within half an hour's time, he came back. The vehicle was on the wheels, and Baba says, you have done really a good job. Now, what do you want? Would you like to come to me and stay? The blessed fellow, he was most unfortunate. He was so crazy about the cars that he replied to Baba, I would like to go back to my profession and drive cars, you know. And Baba, you know, as a great loving master, he said, all right, you could do that. But afterwards, we heard that he did not quite succeed, and he also met with a serious accident, and till the end of the life, till the retirement from the service, he was actually surrounded by the vehicles, and he could not leave motors or buses, you know. This is really a divine comedy, you know. At the same time, when I was there, Baba had some foreigners with him, and my late father-in-law, Dr. Ghani was there, and they questioned him about the interesting places around Lonavla, and he explained to them. I could hear at that time, and Baba said, let us go to a nearby power generator and see the thing. I was really feeling lonely, why I was left out of the whole thing. Then Baba came to me and he said, you will live in the bungalow, you are not coming with us. But the job for you is that you would be reading my discourses. I had any good knowledge of English. I couldn't read much about it. And discourses was such a lofty thing, you know, written by, dictated by Baba and elaborated by Deshmukh in those days. So I tried to read, and Baba came back in the evening and said, how much did you read and how much did you understand? Baba came up to me and said, how much did I read and did I really understand those discourses? I replied to him, Baba, I tried my level best, but it was very difficult to follow what was written there. But later on, I realized that I could understand everything after a passage of about 10 to 15 years, and the position has come to this extent that I could very well face the learned and the intellectuals and the saints, you know. Wherever I visited and I lectured, I had to refer to Baba's discourses. I had to read God Speaks and so many other books. And at that time, I did not realize when Baba told me, but after a period of 20 years, now I realize its importance, what was the idea behind. Stop. At Lonavla, we were sitting in a room. Then I was quite a young man, hardly 16 years old, and there were senior disciples sitting in the room, and Baba's closest disciple, Eraj Jasawala, at that time he was lying in the hall, rather enjoying his afternoon nap, and soon Baba entered the room, and he got up just to pay respect and reverence to the master. Baba looked at him and said, you lie down. Whereas the others were sitting and standing, and Baba was there. He was feeling quite awkward, you know. How could he sleep amongst the crowd, you know? And he hesitated and he did not do it. And Baba then commanded, you have to. And then he obediently, he laid himself on the floor. That particular scene, you know, it struck me. I said to Baba, why so particular and anxious about such a thing? But when Baba's new life came and when I read about Erech sacrifices and what Baba told, how obedient Erech was and how nicely he behaved and conducted himself during the new life, it revealed to me after so many years how great masters, whatever they tell or whatever they do, at that time the significance is not realized, but later on you come to know about it. In this context, I have to give you another very interesting incident. I was coming down the hill with my father. It was a Sahwas time, and the railway train had come to Mehrabad, and the engine was there, and my father beckoned at the railway and told me some 20 years ago, Baba, while coming down the hill, told me that one day the train would stop here. At that time, we couldn't realize the importance of Baba's set. But after 20 years, when I see the train standing here, my consciousness, my memory goes back to that particular incident, and it tells us so many things, about Baba. Now here another incident of my life I would like to tell you. When I was just a kid, I suddenly was attracted towards Baba. I began writing to him letters. Then a message came through Baba telling, I was nicknamed Baggu at that time, that tell Baggu to come immediately to Mehrabad. And as my father was a very strict person, he literally translated Baba's message to me. But I was studying in the second standard and quite a child. I was attracted towards Baba. I began writing to him. And soon came a letter from Baba through my father that Baggu should be told, that was my nickname, or rather my nickname now also, that I should go to Mehrabad and stay with Baba. But as my father was a very strict person, he translated conveyed the message literally to me. And he says, if you have got anything to tell Baba. And I replied to him, well, would Baba give me biscuits and chocolates? He wired back to Baba. He says, there is a precondition to see you, Baba. That the young chap says that, would you give him chocolates and biscuits? And the reply came, the telegram came back, yes, he would have it. And then I was given the message and I started. And lo, what was the position when I reached Ahmednagar? Our great Vishnu master, Baba's living disciple, was there. He was ready with a nice box of chocolate and a packet of biscuits. He says, they are from Baba and you have come to us. And I became so conscious about, sitting amongst the mandli, eating those biscuits and chocolates. And I realized the importance of it. If a master wants you to come to him, he would bait you in any way. He could even give you chocolates. Well, I came to him. I stayed with him. And that was the happiest time of my life, Then he used to make me read my English book, which I had at that time. And he used to inquire about my health. And then one day there was a room near in the compound of Mehrabad. I think some master stayed there, and he told me that I should remain in that room for a short time. I did not realize the importance. I tried to pray Baba there, and but being a child, I did not know what it was about. And as my habit was, I used to ask all sorts of silly questions to Baba, and Baba used to lovingly reply me. One day, the quadrangle cricket matches were going on, and in those days, the matches were placed on community basis, That is, the Europeans against the Parsis and the Muslims against the Hindus and those things, So I casually said, Baba, who would win the match this time? And Baba said, such and such community would win the match this time. And then I was surprised, would it come true? And afterwards, when the results came, it happened that only that particular community won the match. Then one day, going through the Illustrated Weekly of India, I saw the photographs of Italo-Abyssinian War. And I asked Baba, when the war would be over? And Baba says, it will never be over, it will go on like this. And I did not quite realize what he said until today. I know when I read the newspapers, and recently when I read about Ethiopia and the arrest of Haile Selassie and his ultimate end and passing away, and still the turmoil in the world going on, that explains to you very clearly how the ways of the masters and what they tell you and how they do it, and it is beyond the comprehension of an ordinary man to fathom their actions and to know them.
You have just mentioned about what Baba has said about your death. to your father. Would you tell that story?
I was born in Ramjoo family on 18th of July 1922, and at that time my father was traveling with Baba, so a telegram was sent and the telegram reached Baba. Baba called my dad and said, there is a very lamentable thing to be told to you, a very sad thing, and he wanted to just study his expressions. And my father said that, well sir, well my master, you can tell me about it. And Baba said, the news is that your son which was born passed away, he died. And my father controlled himself and he did not give any signs. Then Baba smiled at him afterwards, after some time, and said, I'm going to tell you the good news that you have a son. Then I would like to tell you something about the naming ceremony when you Christian.
I just wanted to ask you, so your father's reaction suddenly from hearing that you were dead to suddenly that you were alive, did he ever mention anything more?
No, he was a man of peculiar temperament. He was very devout, as I said to you some time back when he went with Baba to Elephanta Caves, and Baba asked him, would you like the worldly glory, the worldly wealth, the worldly eminence, or would you like me? If you come to me, there is suffering and nothing else. And he said, Baba, I don't care for worldly things, I don't want anything, I want you, I love you.
This was your father?
This was his father. So the news about passing away of the son or getting a son or a daughter, it was nothing to him, you know.
Yeah.
That is what one could feel, or we hear about him, you know, we come to the conclusion about his devotion.
Did your father travel with Baba in the New Life at all? Or?
No, at the time of New Life, Baba had given specific duties to different disciples. For example, he took certain disciples with him in the New Life, and with certain disciples he entrusted them with different kinds of work. And that work, people who were doing that work were known as arrangement walas, such as Khan Sahib Saroshirani of Ahmednagar, my father, and there were other people, Nariman Dada Chanji. They could not go because they had lots of other responsibility and they were looking after so many things pertaining to Baba.
During this time, did Baba ever give any instructions to you regarding your schooling or what kind of activities, worldly activities, or any kind of activity that you should be doing?
Baba's early contact, from that I could say, he told me that I should always speak truth. And I should stick to the path of righteousness, right doing. And as a result of that, the first duties which were entrusted to me, during the Second World War, we were operating a bus service in Devlali. And more or less that bus service belonged to Baba's Mandali. And it happened that one of the workers who was attached to this bus service, who was supervising this, he died in a motorcycle accident, and there was nobody to look after. So my Baba, after going to Devlali, I found that it was quite a responsibility, but as Baba had said it, I could look after everything, rather certain impossible things, you know, and that instilled greater faith.
So Baba
and
had
love.
Instructed you then to do
Yes,
that? To
yes,
look after
yes.
And the gentleman.
And when I was there, I happened to meet a couple of British soldiers, you know, who were quite different than normally the persons you meet. And I couldn't say whether they were the agents of Baba or they were spiritual beings, you know, but they were there very much, you know. From the crowd, you know, a certain fellow came to me and he said, well, how about going for dinner, you know? I said, very well. And I was quite fascinated towards him, you know. He was a nice man, you know, but not the kind in those days, you know. Why should he talk to me like that? He is the avatar of the age, and he is the root of all spiritual creation that would ultimately help them. This I heard from number of people, and apart from that, as the traditions are, that once a man is dedicated to his master, he remains loyal and faithful to him. And due to this kind of feeling dominant in me, I never contacted any astrologer or palmist or saint. But once it happened, a man holding a degree of Doctor of Science from San Francisco University and a great Hatha yogi who had a very vast following came down to Nasik. And my elder brother told me he's a man of miracles. Why don't you come and see him? And I replied to him, well, in my heart of heart, I definitely feel that I am not attracted towards anybody. As such, I'm sorry, I will not come and see him. I'm absolutely contented and satisfied so far my master is concerned. Dr. Abdul Ghani Munsif, I have to tell you an incident that happened. Dr. Ghani was seriously ill. He was given an oxygen cylinder and he was about to pass away. I was a sort of a witness to it. I was sitting by his bedside and was observing him. He was quite unconscious, but in that state also, he was constantly muttering the name of Baba, which he kept on till he passed away. Afterwards, Adike Irani came to Pune and he inquired of me what were his last words, and I said such and such thing happened, and it was really remarkable how in his unconscious state and in such critical condition he could do that. That message was communicated to Baba, later on to Baba, and afterwards we received a telegram which said something like this, that Dr. Abdul Ghani's soul will not rest in peace unless he sees as I am. Afterwards another incident took place. The next day when his body was to be taken out for burial, I was standing in the balcony and I saw a person of very handsome countenance. He was something like a yogi or a sadhu and was holding a torch, a burning torch in his hand. He looked up the building and said that the lovers of God always undergo trial and troubles. It was a very fine sight, and I don't think other people could realize or recognize him or realize the importance, but he did not look like an ordinary man, but surely he appeared as a wayfarer. So I was the witness to it. In the procession, many people came, and his body was taken to Lonavla, where it was buried. By coming in contact with Baba, we generally came across experiences of quite a different kind, very difficult to explain. One day I was going along a jeep with my friend. I was in the heart of the bazaar and I found a man wearing a long kafni, a white robe, came very near to my jeep and he patted me on my thigh, which was outside the car, resting on the footboard. The man sitting next to me said, "Look, mister, you are being checked here, you are not alone, Baba even sends his agents over there." And another thing happened when I went to Sangamner, a place in district Ahmednagar. There happened to be a lady saint, and when the person who was in charge of that house informed the lady that I had come there, she called me, I offered her curd, and the way in which she gave instructions to Mr. Sabnis, who was in charge of the house, were very peculiar, and her actions were resembling Baba's, She did not speak, she made a sign and inquired whether I had my lunch, and when Sabnis said no, then she said, "Better you see that he takes his lunch, So wherever I went, I met queer and peculiar people, and I always felt that there were the lights in the darkness, or they were the children of Baba who, in Baba's absence, that is in physical absence at a particular place, always took care of his disciples. And lovers are the people who admired Baba. I won't directly say what I am, but my humble experience says that I love Baba, and in turn when I come across people like this, they love me.